Good morning and welcome to this week's Coffee and Conversation. I'm your host, Coach Dennis from manoflegacy.org, and with me is Dr. Charlie.
Hello.
And you can see a link to his website below. It'll be in the description of the video. And if you like what we're talking about, please feel free to hit the subscribe button. That way you'll know when we have podcasts or new videos dropped. And today, we're going to talk about toxic masculinity. If I was a smart man, I'd leave this topic alone. But I've not been accused of being the smartest guy in the room sometimes. And I don't believe in toxic masculinity, Charlie. I think there's nothing wrong with femininity or masculinity. It is when it is abused. And again, we're looking at abusive men. That doesn't make masculinity toxic. It makes that individual toxic or a piece of crap. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. It's there are toxic men, but masculinity in and of itself is not toxic. And I think, we were talking about this earlier, Dennis, and that as men, we all have a responsibility to call other men out on this. We can't stand by and let them make lewd comments to women and do things that are unbecoming to men and not stand up and speak about it.
I agree. If you are one of those higher quality men, you cannot turn a blind eye to inappropriate behavior. It's just wrong. And I think that's probably where some men have failed over the years, is they didn't want to get involved. They didn't feel it was their place, whatever. But we all know, and we can see by body language when there's a problem sometimes. You can see when a woman's uncomfortable, when the guy is too close and in their space. And I think when we see that, we're aware of it. We need to do something about it.
Yeah, definitely need to step in and intervene in those cases. And I think that when we do that, we also send a message to other men that aren't involved and that this behavior is unacceptable.
Yeah.
And as men, we shouldn't tolerate it. And we've done so, frankly, for years, and it needs to stop.
Yeah, and we were talking earlier, if it wasn't for masculinity, the railroads out west, the skyscrapers, there's a lot of positive things that come from it. At the same time, once men get into power, the ones that are not high quality individuals tend to abuse that and take advantage of it. And that's just unacceptable. And it is our responsibility as men to call that out. I know we talked about both of us having examples where we saw something inappropriate being done and we addressed it. And in your case, you were thanked by the person who, and you didn't even have to do anything but observe. And what I think that shows is when there's evil being done or wrong being done, it is because they think nobody else sees it or they think they can get away with it. And sometimes just being present and watching something and letting them know that you're watching them can take care of a situation.
Yeah, and that's the situation I had. Just the body language didn't look right, and this man was talking to this woman. As a matter of fact, they started out outside the car, and then she got in the car, and he was continuing as he stood outside the car, and it just didn't look right to me. And then the man saw me looking, and he looked back, and I kept looking. And so he ended up getting in his car and driving off. And then as she drove by, she rolled the windows down and thanked me. And so something wasn't right. I didn't know what it was, but I wasn't going to turn away. Not my business. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to turn a blind eye to that kind of behavior. So.
And I guess because of the quality of the men I associate with now, that's why one of the reasons I have this view. We're not those guys. And I think we have to be just a little more aware and make sure that if we see this kind of behavior, that we call it out and we don't let it continue. I know in my case, I reported somebody for both sexual and racial discrimination, and I was annoyed he didn't get canned. I provided documentation. He did get exiled to the version of Siberia for that company, but he deserved to be fired. And it tells you how strongly I felt about it. You know, you just, and this was just a lot of little things. And when you started looking at it, and then the removal of a woman was removed from a department leadership position because, and I quote, I remember it to this day, a woman doesn't belong in that department. Yeah, this was in the 90s. I was like, excuse me? I'm like, she's the perfect person for this job because, again, we were hiring a person. We did very careful selection process. When it was all done, he removed her from that position, put her in a different department. There was a couple of us who were quite annoyed with that. And, you know, it's just one of those things. So men, if you see it happening, and that could be body language, it could be inappropriate comments, you need to call it out and not allow it. Because if you allow it and you condone it, it's going to continue on. And that guy who's being that way where you allowed it might do that next to your wife, your girlfriend, or your daughter. So guys, don't ignore wrongdoing. Be smart about it, but call it out. Be present and do your part to stop inappropriate behavior no matter what it is. Thanks, guys.